Hi, my name is Sue Shapcott, and today we're going to be talking about coming over the top in your golf swing. It's a phrase that people use a lot to describe their swings. Sometimes it's a good description, sometimes it's not. So let's start by talking about how you know whether you are coming over the top in your golf swing. So the phrase gets used synonymously with a slice. And to hit a slice, first of all, it doesn't mean that you're coming over the top. And when you come over the top, it doesn't always mean that you're going to slice. So some of the ball flight characteristics that tell you that you're coming over the top are: 1, you might be hitting low shots. 2, you might be hitting left shots. 3, you may be hitting slice shots that start left of your target and curve to the right. So coming over the top doesn't always mean that you're going to slice. Similarly, your ball can miss to the right and curve right without you coming over the top. So don't necessarily jump to the conclusion that you're coming over the top just because your ball is finishing to the right. When you come over the top, your swing path starts moving to the left, and so then the angle of attack can get a little bit steep, which is why the ball may come out low. And then the variable that you need to consider is what the club face is doing relative to your swing path. And that's going to determine whether the ball just goes straight left, whether it goes left and then further left, or whether it starts left and curves to the right. So let's say that you have already determined, based on your ball flight or your strike or your divot, that you are coming over the top. So what is coming over the top? So quite simply, then what people refer to when they talk about coming over the top is that the shoulders start the downswing, and so the club starts swinging outside of the ball, comes down steeply, and starts traveling down to the left. Okay, so that's what a typical over-the-top swing looks like. And for me, the most common cause of that over-the-top swing is when, as you transition into the downswing, then the shoulders start turning too early and they initiate that downswing. Okay? So if your first move from the top of the downswing is with the shoulders, then you are probably going to come over the top. Another cause of an over the top, a little bit more indirectly, is that if you don't have a good turn on your backswing, then it's pretty likely that you are going to come down on top of the ball on your downswing. Okay? So now let's talk about some of the corrections that you can make to reduce your over-the-top swing. So if we talk about that latter cause, so not turning enough on the backswing, that's a relatively easy one to fix. So for that one, just make sure you turn your hips and your shoulders back on the backswing. Okay, so that's going to give you a bigger arc. It's going to give you a different angle to come into the ball from. Okay, so you're not going to be able to get turned back unless you get your right hip turned back and your right shoulder turned back. So you can work on turning that back in the backswing, and you can see when I do that, then my hands have come around a lot more than if I don't turn and just kind of lift my hands up. So that's one way that you can start reducing your over-the-top move if it's caused by you not turning on the backswing. For most people, what they need to do to stop their over-the-top backswing is to work on the transition from their backswing to the downswing. And the way that the body should move on the downswing is from the ground up. So let's say I've made a great backswing here, I've made a good turn, and we've already said that an over-the-top characteristic starts when the shoulders move first. Now, what you've got to start trying to feel is that it's the feet and the hips that move first on the downswing rather than the shoulders. So if I turn this way again, and if I make a really good backswing where I've turned my right shoulder back, turned my right hip back, then I'm going to try and start my downswing with my feet and my hips. Going to try and keep my shoulders back. And you can see here that now my club is coming into the ball at a different angle, more of an inside angle, than if I start my downswing, where I just turn from my shoulders and I get that very steep over the top move on the downswing. So how you start your downswing, whether it starts from the ground up or from the shoulders down, is going to influence whether you come over the top in your downswing or not. So a couple of cues that generally help people in terms of trying to correct that over the top swing. So one is that if I make a good backswing here, then my swing thought is going to be, as I start down, I am going to try and keep my back facing my target, and my target's in that direction. I'm going to try and keep my back facing the target for as long as I can. So my feet are working, my legs are working, my hips are working, my arms are starting to come down, but my shoulders haven't turned open and started my downswing for me. So that's a good thing to practice, trying to keep your back to face your target for a little bit longer. Another good drill to do is when you set up, is to just pull back your right foot, maybe pull back your right shoulder a little bit. That's first of all going to help you with the turn, and secondly, it's going to help you swing the club out to the right a little bit more, because the club is going to follow your shoulder alignment, which is why when you start with your shoulders, that causes that out to in swing path. So if we can negate that a little bit by putting your right foot back and closing the shoulders at impact, then it's going to promote more of an in to out swing path instead of that out to in swing path. When you practice, when you're trying to change any swing characteristic, then what I would recommend is making some really slow practice swings where you're very aware of what you're doing. Unless you do that, you're probably going to just keep repeating the same old movement pattern. And this transition from the backswing to the downswing usually happens pretty fast, which is where you get your speed. So in order to make change in that area, then you have to go slowly enough so that you can actually monitor and be aware of what you're doing. Okay, so I would recommend making practice swings where you turn back and then you very slowly start practicing your downswing the correct way, so that you can be aware of, are my shoulders staying back? Have my feet started my downswing, or has it been my shoulders? So unless you go slowly, you're probably not going to be aware enough of whether you are correct in the swing characteristic that you want to fix. So I hope that helps you figure out your over-the-top move in your swing. So just to summarize, first thing you need to do is be aware of your ball flight characteristics and make sure that you do have an over-the-top swing. So is your ball going low? Are you taking a lot of ground either at the ball or slightly after the ball? Are you seeing flight characteristics that go left, further left, straight left, or starting left and curving to the right? If you see those, then you might quite confidently decide that you are coming over the top. And then it's all about either that turn on the backswing so you get into the right position to begin with, and then it's that transition, making sure that you start from the ground up rather than the shoulders down. I hope that helps your over-the-top move. Please check out some of our other videos if they may help your game in the same way. And good luck with that.